Hello everyone and welcome to the second ever Zotbotics tutorial. Today we are going to be going over how to control different components with your Arduino. We got into a little bit of it last time when we deployed code onto our Arduino and set it up, and so now we're going to transfer that over with real world components. The first thing that we're going to do is move on over to the Arduino Simulator though, so that we can get an overview of what we want to do before we set out to actually do it. So this here is the Tinkercad Arduino Simulator. This is a super helpful tool to get you guys used to working with Arduino. It has a whole bunch of different components over here on the side that you can go through. You got breadboards, batteries, motors, all sorts of cool stuff there. The one that we are going to be taking a look at today though, just to get a good feel for everything, is going to be a servo motor. So go ahead and type that in. And we're gonna take the micro servo component right here. We're gonna drop it into our environment. We are going to use the default setup for this. And so now we have a servo motor in our environment. The next thing we want to do is connect this to our Arduino. We can see the different types of wires here, and these correspond to the different types of input that we'll be getting from our Arduino. We're going to power the servo motor just using the onboard power from the Arduino. It is just one singular servo, so it doesn't require a whole lot. And you can see here that the different pins are labeled too. So ground is going to go to ground on the Arduino. I'm gonna make this black because black is almost always ground. We're gonna organize it a little bit better as well. Just drag those around and make sure it looks all pretty. Next up, power. Going to connect this one over to the 5 volts. We're going to make this one red because power is almost always red. And then lastly, signal. So signal is going to correspond to one of our digital pins. These are pins that can output either a 1 or a 0. And the way that they send data is via pulse width modulation, or PWM, as we see right there, which is different timings between the pulses that the pin actually sends to the component. It's a very cool concept. I recommend looking it up if you want to learn more. But all we got to know now is that we will be feeding data to our servo motor with this pin right here. So we're going to go ahead and connect this as well. And then this one can stay green. I chose pin number 9 because this is what one of the example codes actually recommends as well. The pin you choose doesn't matter, but you just have to make sure to reflect it in your code. All right, let's go ahead and fix this red wire here too, bugging me just a little bit. Let's get that guy just like that. And we're gonna be good to go. So now we have a nice clean servo motor. We are ready to take a look at the code. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is include the servo library. For anybody familiar with C++, this should look very familiar. We just include the header file. This line is absolutely essential though to making sure that you can use the servo commands. Then we're going to set up a position that we want our servo to start at. This can be any number between 0 and 180 degrees, or a number of degrees actually, depending on your servo and which one you have. Then we're going to set up our servo by declaring it as an object. And in our setup code, which runs every time the Arduino resets or turns on, we are going to attach the servo to pin number 9 using the attach function right there. So you can see that the argument for this will correspond to whatever digital pin you have selected to send data over to your Arduino. Finally, we are going to take a look at the loop code. So this is a little bit of a funky programming practice, not something that I particularly recommend for larger robot projects, but because we're just taking a look at a single servo motor, it is okay to use for loops in the loop section. I'll probably be going over some more advanced programming techniques later on in the tutorial series, but this is totally fine for now. We are going to use for loops to change the position of the servo. So our for loop will set up position at 0, it'll check if it's less than or equal to 180 degrees. And while it is less than or equal to 180 degrees, it will increment it by 1. So every time we go through this loop, we're going to increment our position, and we're going to write it over to our servo, and then also wait 15 milliseconds. And what this will do is it will give us a very smooth motion with our servo. Waiting just a little bit actually does a lot, and we'll see this when we turn it on for the first time. And then for our second for loop, we're going to do the exact same thing, but in reverse. So we're going to see if it's 180, we're going to decrement it now, or we're going to see if it's greater than or equal to 0, and we're going to decrement it now, and then we will write that same position over to the servo motor and do the same thing. So what this looks like when it's turned on, it's going to move forwards and backwards in a very smooth and continuous motion. Let's check out the simulation. Gonna go ahead and click the Start Simulation button. We can go and see that it's just moving back and forth, real nice there. And that's pretty much exactly where we want to be at for this tutorial video today. Now, let's take a look at how we're going to do this with our actual components. Alright, so taking a look at our workspace here, we are only going to need a few components to recreate the stuff that we saw in the Arduino Simulator. The first thing that we'll need, of course, is our Arduino. Hopefully you guys all have this from your kit. The next thing we'll need is our USB-A to USB-B cable so that we can connect our Arduino to our computer. Then we're, of course, going to need our servo motor right here. I have also taken the liberty of attaching this plastic piece here onto the golden rotator of our servo motor, so that way it'll be easier to see when it rotates. So you can just go ahead and snap that on there. It should come in a plastic baggie with your servo motor, and it should be fine. You can also see that this is going to be your header. The 3 colors of the wires are going to be just like on the simulator, so it should be very easy to connect. The last things that we're going to need are going to be these jumper wires, which will recreate the wires that we created in the simulator as well. So we have green for the data from the digital pin, we have red for the power from the 5-volt pin, and we have black for the ground. So let's go ahead and plug our Arduino into our computer. Going to plug the USB-B cable in right here, and then just slap that into your computer. Go. You should see it power up and begin blinking if you followed our last tutorial. If you didn't, then just make sure this LED is on and everything should be fine. Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to connect our black wire to the ground pin. So you can see that the pins are all labeled on the side there. Let's see if that focuses. If it doesn't, just take a look at your Arduino, and you want to just stick the black wire right into ground. Should be very easy to find. Then we're going to take our red wire and put it into the 5-volt pin, which is located right next to the ground. So it's going to be right there. Yeah, there it is, starting to focus a little bit, but yeah, they're going to want to be right next to each other. Lastly, let's take our green wire and put that into our number 9 digital pin. So you just stick that right on in there. That is going to look just like that. And now we're good to go. We're ready to plug it into our servo motor. These jumper wires should be the exact same that came with the tutorial kit. You will need the male-to-male ends, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. But it's going to mean that you have the metal bit on the end of both sides. It's going to be going into a receiver on this side, a female receiver on this side, and also for the servo motor. So that's important. To set up the actual servo motor, we're going to want to start plugging in the wires now. So we've got brown, red, and orange, right? Or brown, red, and orange. Brown is going to be ground to connect to the black wire that we plugged into our Arduino. Red is going to be power that we plugged into the power as well, and orange is going to be green. Let's go ahead and get those all corresponded here. plug the... I like to plug the ground in first. Always gotta make sure it's grounded and safe. Then we'll plug in the red wire right in there. The second one. And lastly, the green wire to the orange pin, or to the orange wire there. So now we have a continuous connection between our Arduino and all of the inputs that we need for our servo motor. You can see it right there. All right, and lastly, we are going to just go on over to the Arduino IDE. Let's make, you can make a new file. I've already got one set up here, but you are just gonna wanna make a new file and take the code and put it on in here. So we've included the servo.h header file, which will again let us use the servo library, and it is just going to be exactly like we saw in the simulator here. So we are going to verify this. It will be done compiling. Then we're going to upload it to our Arduino. And after that, after it finishes uploading, our servo will start moving immediately. Let's check it out. Alright, so as you can see here, the servo is moving continuously back and forth. If we want to reset it, we can press the reset button on our Arduino right there, the little white button. It'll snap back to the 0 position. Otherwise, it will just continuously move back and forth. The one thing about this code is that there's no off switch, so you will either have to unplug your servo motor to get it to stop, or unplug your Arduino, or load some different code onto it if you want to load the blink example back on. But otherwise, yeah, we've successfully powered and driven our servo motor. So this is going to be the essentials of how to use the Arduino and get it to interface with other components. You need to just simply connect the pins, make sure they're powered, and then using the IDE, make sure you're writing the correct data to the pins. That is going to do it for the tutorial today. Hopefully you guys learned some exciting and fun information about how to power and control your components using your Arduino. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section of the video, or send us an email at zotbotics@gmail.com. Check out our Linktree also, and stay tuned for the next exciting episode in the Zotbotics Robotics Fundamentals Kit tutorial series. We will see you guys next time.